Son, and of the Holy Ghost. Amen.
Amen.
Don't worry. Easier said than done. And at first, if we take this passage out of context, it makes Jesus sound rather callous. Given the terrible poverty on earth, with people dying all the time of starvation, how could he say, don't worry. Don't worry about what you eat or you drink or the clothes that you wear. But then, of course, as you are the most intelligent congregation, you will put it in context. Jesus has given the people the Sermon on the Mount, the Beatitudes. Blessed are they. And then he's gone across the lake to the other side to try and escape from these crowds. But they have hightailed it around the side of the lake, and when he gets there, there they are. Now these are not the poor. These are people who have enough. So that's the context. Jesus is not talking to the poor. He's talking to people who have enough, but who still worry that they're going to lose, or all the things that consume our waking hours. I'm worrying about the chemo I start tomorrow. Well, after all, it was invented in Russia. For people with muscular dystrophy. I don't have muscular dystrophy. Then when it was going through clinical trials in Europe, they noticed that it had an effect on something called hairy leukemia. Well, I don't have hairy leukemia. But then they began to discover that it had an effect on other sorts of leukemia, including Waldenstrom's, that which I have. And I only take it from Monday until Friday, and then it's over with. And they say there are few side effects, and your hair doesn't fall out. Well, it didn't fall out last time. But I'm still a little bit worried. And I suppose if we were going to be in church for long enough, and I invited you all to tell me what you are worried about at the moment, we would have a very interesting collection of worries. And most of them are predicated upon the idea that you are in charge. And that feeling of hopelessness when being in charge doesn't mean a thing. It might happen. We live in a world dominated by fear. Politicians love to press the fear button, to get us all to panic. We talk of our fears all the time. We distress our loved ones by muttering into the television set that can't hear us. And they have to listen to us. What do I look like? Well, there's nobody honest enough to tell you. What do I feel like? I had an aunt. My mother always used to what she feels like, because if I do, it'll be a day. What do other people think of me? And all these things are inane fears, inane worries. What does it matter what anybody else thinks of you? I see you. What does it matter what anybody else thinks about you? Not a thing. And Jesus is saying that these fears are faithless. For God has given us all these blessings. We got up this morning and didn't worry about having clothes to put on. We got our breakfast and didn't have to worry about whether there was food. We got into our car and didn't have to worry that it wasn't going to work. We got into church without any problem. Well, maybe. There is nothing more exasperating, my dears, than showering and getting dressed with a broken leg. It takes me so long I want to go back to bed when I finish. And I did it. So. And what Jesus is saying in this gospel is, if you believe, be grateful. Be thankful. Stop moaning. Easier said than done. We wake up in the middle of the night and we can't get back to sleep. And all those things come flooding into our minds. Often things we have no control about anymore anyway. What happened to us when we were a child? What that person did to us? How we should have been this, but somebody else cheated us out and we got the job instead. And there is not one single thing we could do about it. And yet we worry. More significant are the things we dream about and think about which concern when we have been unjust. And there is something we can do about it. We can learn to be sorry. Because it's only our pride that is getting in the way. And pride is attempting to be God. Pride is attempting to be God. What do I mean by that? Pride is when we say, I cannot possibly behave as if I were not in control of all things. And if I were to say sorry, I would diminish myself. Attempting to be God turns you into little Gaddafis. harm because they can't say sorry. Because they can't say, I was wrong, that I fouled up. But I want to be God. And God says, terribly sorry, the chair's taken. So the lesson today for us all is, today is enough. Give thanks for all the things God has given us today. Make amends when you can. If you can't, don't try. And give thanks unto the Lord, for he is gracious. His mercy endureth forever. Amen. Let us